you. Good morning, everyone, on this gloomy Thursday. We were just saying. So today is Thursday, September 2nd, 2021. And it's approximately 7:30 a.m. and we will open up the Concord Middle School Building Committee meeting. So with that, I will call roll. Stephen Crane let me know he would be running a little bit late. Jared Stanton.
Present.
Good morning, Jared. Matt Johnson.
Present.
Hi, Matt. Lori Hunter.
Here.
Thanks, Lori. Justin Cameron.
Morning, present.
Good morning, John Harris.
Here.
Hey, John. Russ Hughes.
Here.
Hey, Russ. Peter Fishalis.
Present.
Hi, Peter. Alexa Anderson. Good morning. I see you waving.
Here.
Alexa's officially joining us, everyone. I know everyone, we introduced her a few meetings ago, I think. So she's official now, school committee representative. So welcome, Alexa. Court Booth.
Here.
Heather Bout.
Still here. You can't get rid of me.
We don't want to. I was going to mention Heather is still with us, thankfully. So want to thank Matt Johnson at the select board level for helping us retain Heather Bout, and she's so valuable to our group. So was that last week's meeting or the week before? I'm lost in time, guys. But they voted to keep her, is it through January, Heather, officially? Yes. And then, yeah. So thank you to the select board for that. We're so happy she's still with us. So she's here today. Thanks, Heather. Frank Cannon.
Yes.
Hi, Frank.
Hi.
Otherwise known as Sue.
Yeah.
Sue can always join too. Chris Popoff.
Present.
Hi, Chris. Charlie
Good
Parker.
morning.
Good morning.
Present.
Hi,
Here.
Charlie. Matt Root. And Pat Nelson.
Here.
And I'm Dawn Guariella. So with that, we will open the meeting with approval of minutes. We have the draft minutes from the August 5th, 2021 CMSBC meeting. I trust folks had a chance to look those over. I will ask for any edits, changes. Hi, Stephen Crane. I see you. You weren't that late.
Thanks. It's been
It took me
over
so
a year.
long to get through everyone. You had time to get here. Good morning.
It's been over a year since I've been behind a school bus, and I just forgot what that was like. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
I let everyone know that was your excuse. So I said, we'll give him a hard time. He blamed it on a school bus, which is legitimate this week. So I know our bus driver is still getting used to the route. A little bit different. So, okay. Any edits to the August 5th meeting notes? Don't all speak at once. Maybe we.
I thought they looked good, Dawn.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks.
Look fine to me.
Awesome. Okay, great.
Move to
So
approve the August 5th, 2021 minutes as written.
thank you, Matt. You're right ahead of me. I appreciate that. So we have a motion. Any seconds?
Second.
Thank you, Court. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I will take a roll call. Stephen Crane?
I'll vote yes, but I was not at the meeting.
Oh, you can abstain.
Yeah, I'll stay.
Whatever you. Okay.
You vote yes too.
I'll vote
Jared
yes.
Okay. Jared Stanton?
Yes.
Matt Johnson?
Yep.
Lori Hunter?
Yes.
Justin Cameron?
Yes.
John Harris?
Yes.
Russ Hughes?
Yes.
Peter Fishalis?
Yes.
Alexa, I'll let you do what you're comfortable doing.
Abstain.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Court Booth?
Yes.
Heather Bout?
Yes.
Frank Cannon?
Yes.
Chris Popoff?
Yes.
Charlie Parker?
Yes.
Matt Root?
Yes.
Pat Nelson?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Done. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 3, correspondence. I'm gonna look to you, Heather, if you're prepared with anything. And then you can, just as a point of reference, Heather, with the subcommittees, Wait, I'm looking to see where we dropped your
That update is,
patients. That's under
later, I thought.
business. Okay, I just want to be sure. This is just about correspondence. Okay.
yep, exactly.
Great.
And that is quick. Please forgive me if I've crisscrossed the dates since I was here versus since the last meeting, but I'm pretty sure since the last meeting, we just had one email to the whole committee asking about more information on the alternative PE space, which Pat followed up on.
Yes. Thank you, Pat.
If I'm missing something and that went to everybody, feel free to correct me. But I'm pretty sure that that's the only one that I have as our coming to our committee address.
It's the only one I'm remembering as well. So,
Okay,
okay.
then
Great.
I'm done.
Thank you, Heather. Moving on to business. Review of the subcommittee membership. And I think we're prepared to give a little update on communication. So review of communication subcommittee membership. Heather, which I mentioned, thankfully is still among us, and I presume still prepared to chair the communications subcommittee. Is that, I see your head nodding, Heather.
Yes, I'm happy to continue chairing. Sorry, I had to find unmute again.
No, that's okay. And subsequent to Alexa being officially put onto our committee, emailed Pat and I to let us know she was willing to throw her hat in the ring to participate in the communications subcommittee. I guess,
Yay, thank you.
yeah. Oh my gosh, thank you. Yes. And
I
guess
need help.
I would look, and I know we've mentioned this multiple times, that all of us are technically part of that subcommittee, but we need
Right.
leadership and we need membership to actually make things happen. So I want to put it out there that if anyone else wants to volunteer officially with Alexa and Heather, we would welcome them with open
We'll
arms.
take you.
If not, I know that a memo was shared in our packet that I think Heather is prepared to give a quick update as far as what the future holds for communications and outreach. So Heather, I'll turn it over to you to give us that update and let others think about if they want
Yes,
to join in
absolutely.
the fun.
Um,
Great, thanks.
Do you want me to share screen? How do I-
Oh, that would actually be helpful. Are you able to?
I think so. It looks like it. Yep.
Great.
Okay, everyone see the communication subcommittee update?
Yes.
Okay, good. So let me start off. The most important thing to say first is this is an update of my recommendation. That what we're looking at here is not a set plan, and I am looking for feedback. So please, by all means, this can be a discussion, and I am very open to suggestions and edits and feedback and all that. So this is a recommendation. What I did here is basically I wanted us all to look quickly at the high level of the next few months. This is not a detailed list of every way we're going to use social media and every change we're going to make on the website or anything like that. This is a high level look at what do the next few months look like and what do we need to accomplish? And then we'll get into more details on the how as we move forward. So what I did is I broke it out into 3 stages, which makes it sound like a long plan, and it's really not. We don't have a lot of time to do all this. The first stage being September, which is upon us. And then just looking at October, November, and December into January/March, depending on when, the special town meeting and special election fall. And as you heard, I'm reseated until January. And so I might even disappear out of this, depending on what happens with the seat towards the end. But hopefully we will have a special town meeting by then. Okay, so looking at each one quickly. September, I feel like the goal here is to kind of reintroduce us and this project to the community. Not that we haven't been very open to the community and people interested have been coming to watch, certainly, and following along, which is fabulous. At the same time, the community at large who is not really closely following this hasn't heard as much about it recently. And that's because, as we all know, summer, and we've been kind of moving things along to get to a point where we have things to share. I think it's time to start sharing, even if we don't have finalized plans yet and a lot finalized, but it's time to start to get the community talking about this. both to build up interest and also so that if there are questions and concerns, they come up now and not in December when we're about to vote on things. So this is the time to really get the community talking again. 3 specific goals or kind of tactics within that. Really the goals. 1, just to bring back the awareness. And I've had, basically, I should also say in advance here, I've had some suggestions from Alexa already, which has been really helpful. And so some of her suggestions are woven in here. So if it's good, you can give her credit. And if it's not good, I'll take the blame. So some of this in terms of awareness, we want to start just sending out visuals, timelines, teasers. I'll tease the end of this document, which has tools to be used throughout, and we're going to add social media more than we have in the past from us, not just using the district and the town social media. And that's where I'm really glad Alexa's joining me, because that's not my strong suit, but she's much better at it than I am. So I think this is going to be great. I'm so excited to have it. This is going to be a good team. We can use that and the other tools that we've used, website and email and all that. The next is to start to educate a little more, primarily on the process, but also the documents we're looking at, the designs, a little more details about things, so that the community can feel educated, which is a kind of a step deeper than just, teasers of images. The third one, and this is where I'm going to do a little more explanation and engage you all, hopefully, and ask for you to be involved in this process. We would like to create a community connection to this committee, which is not just to our committee meetings, but to the individuals, the people on this committee. Who is this committee? Who are we? And why are we getting to make these big decisions for the town? And where are we from and why are we involved? So what I would like to recommend is that we start a series of very brief intro videos. And when I say video, I mean it could be 10 to 15 seconds, up to 30 maybe max, but a short, quick intro. And we can start to send those out on social media and through email. And we will do them, we'll spread them out over time. And each one would be a quick, hi, I'm Heather Bout. I'm on this committee because, I started because I was on the school committee. I'm very interested in schools, but and in education. Here's one of the things that excites me most about the building coming up. Boom, end. Really quick and sweet. And each person can give obviously a different perspective, why it is that you are interested in this committee, maybe what your expertise is. Matt Root can tell us all how he's an environmental sustainability expert, et cetera, et cetera. So that's something I would love everybody to do. I have asked Dawn and Pat to kick us off and go first, so that we'll put more pressure on them. If once they do theirs, we can share them if people want an example. Alexa and I haven't checked this with you, Alexa, but I'm going to volunteer Alexa and myself to at least make ours early on as examples. We won't send ours out first because the chair should go out first. But we can make our own little brief intro videos and share them with all of you just as examples so people can get a feel. So if you are terribly, terribly camera shy, no, we won't handcuff you to a chair to do this, but we would really love it if everybody could do just a quick hi somewhere. And if you absolutely hate video, we could do a photo and a quote from you, but I'm gonna push for videos if possible. So that's kind of, that's September. That's a lot in September. And all of those things will then continue on. Obviously, we're not going to finish any of those things in September. So September is kind of the kickoff for all of those things. As we move into October and November, it's very similar, and it's basically building on those goals. So we want to ensure more project knowledge is widespread, really get the understanding of what we're doing and our status more widespread through the community, encourage engagement in the process and the design process, questions and everything coming now versus later, further educate regarding the approval process. Hopefully we can involve our town clerk, highlight our special town meeting and special election dates as we confirm them, and maintain that community connection to the committee. So as we do these videos, we obviously won't send them all out in September. That'll continue hopefully through the next few months, September, October, November. Getting into December, January, and through to March, if that's where the special election happen, again, depending when special town meeting is. This is going to be our final push. What we would often call the road show. I don't know if it's going to be as live a road show as we would often do, having lots of gatherings. We have to see what COVID imposes on our plan here. But what we want to ensure in terms of goals is the broad dissemination of the final schematic design, the pricing, and the backup materials that will be discussed or presented or questioned at the special town meeting. So that's going to be really important. Clear explanation of any elements that could cause confusion or concern. We want to make sure we get out ahead of anything that could cause questions. Reminders of the process, and really importantly, the dual vote needed. When we mention dates, we have to make sure we ensure that people know they have to be at special town meeting and the special election to have their voice heard. And really engagement of groups in live or virtual forums and coffees, however we can do that. We'll figure that out as we get closer. So like I said, this was high level. The tools used are primarily the website, the email updates that we have to distribution lists. And when I say email, it's more than just one email that gets sent out. Our distribution list includes many community groups and town chairs and all of that. And so it becomes a tree, hopefully, like a new updated version of a phone tree, and should go out to other social media outlets instead of, et cetera, through that. We will kick up our own social media accounts. We will be very careful about open meeting law. In fact, we will run them so that comments cannot be posted on our posts. The risk if you have comments posted, although it would be great to have people commenting, yay, I can't wait for this. The risk is that if people start posting incorrect information that we then feel like we need to correct, if we're posting, it could become an open meeting law the issue. And so we don't want to have just a free for all where people can post things that could be inaccurate and we can't correct them. It just becomes a mess. So we will just post and send out. And when people want to comment and let us know what they think, they can come directly to us. And forums and coffees, we'll just have to see if those are in person or virtual or how we do it. So that's kind of the quick high level. I am, like I said, very open to questions, comments, suggestions, anything anyone has to share. Oh, and I know, Alexa, you sent me some suggestions already before I opened up to everybody. Any other comments from you, Alexa?
No, I'll hear what everyone says.
Okay.
First.
Heather and Alexa, I think this is remarkable. I like this body of work, and I'm available for any help that both of you may need. Any support.
Love it. We will take you up on that, Justin.
Okay. Be happy to be a part of it.
Terrific.
I think I don't get a lot of sleep. I think Justin gets no sleep for what it's worth. And I have to say, one of my neighbors has 2 middle schoolers, and she said she's able to reach directly out to you and you respond. She's like, I don't know how he finds the time. And I was like, I don't know how so thank you for offering, Justin. I don't know where you find all the time to do everything that you do, but that's wonderful because this will take a lot of work and very much a team effort. So
we had that talk and he still volunteered.
Lori was like, I don't think you have the time. And Justin's like,
and he says, yes, I do. It's my school.
We appreciate it. Awesome. We will prioritize the things that we ask you for, Justin, but we'll take you up on it.
Great.
Heather and Alexa, I think this is a great plan, and I really like putting a face to the committee.
Oh, good.
I think for our citizens, if people do check it out, it just makes this more of this is a process that we're all working on. So I personally feel like this could be a really effective way of reaching the community.
Great, good, I'm glad. I mean, in this town, we talk a lot about trust, and knowing the individuals can help build that trust. So it doesn't feel like we're just some, group in a vacuum making everyone's decisions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Heather,
Well, I can't wait to see the videos.
Heather, I can offer up that a couple of days ago at the design subcommittee, we had public comments to the effect that the re-engagement that you speak of is very timely right now. And in particular, discussions about let's call them the community facing components of the building, will be of great interest to people and where we stand in those deliberations at the present time.
Okay, good. That's good to know. Thanks, Court.
Anyone
Okay, then.
else?
If no more
not-
comments, then Alexa is now officially a part of this and we will run with it. And we will reach out to ask you to all be involved in it.
Is it, Dawn, Pat, is it appropriate with this slide up here referencing the special town meeting to bring us up to date on the select board's request in that regard at some point today?
I don't know that we have an update to share, but I do know that we're actively reaching out, trying to have a date selected. So
Okay.
that
And they-
information will be.
Right, and the select board is also reaching out to us at the same time and to the school committee.
That's correct.
In that regard.
So
Okay, good.
on the heels of that, I think we're trying to move that discussion along. So
Thank
yes, thank you. As soon as we know, we absolutely will share that information with the group and the public.
I have just one comment. It would be good to build into the communications plan the way in which and the schedule for reaching out to all the towns and committees to get their input. I assume that's something that needs to be done and probably needs a schedule and owners and that sort of thing.
Absolutely.
So that's not in there, but I think that would be added.
Yes, you're right. No, I was kind of focusing on keeping high level goals, but you're right. That's worth specifying as a goal, which is to solicit input versus just share. That's always part of our goal in this. So yes, that will absolutely be a part of it, Charlie. Thank you for pointing it out. And we will create a schedule specifically for that and figure out, when to reach out to various groups again. That'll be all part of this. So thank you. Yes, I will add that to our document.
Anything else? If not, thank you, Heather. Thank you, Alexa, for your input on that. And thank you, Justin, for offering to volunteer and help this group. And thank you, everyone, for being willing to participate. And it's a great plan. So I appreciate you bringing that forward to us.
No problem.
All right. Great. Thank you very much. All right, let's move on to the Finance Subcommittee update. Jared, I presume this is your microphone to take.
Yes.
For those who don't know, at the Finance Subcommittee, they voted to have Jared chair that subcommittee. So hence, I will turn the microphone over to Jared to give us an update.
Excellent. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Please don't mind these big headphones. I need some noise cancellation with the kids all excited to go back to school. It's a madhouse here. So yes, I was elected chair. Thank you for that. I'm excited to do it. So we met on August 20th. Some of the things that we discussed, the first thing was we discussed the charge of the Finance Committee, and we were able to dig up some information that we had back in August of 2019. Essentially, we discussed that the Finance Subcommittee is charged with providing a focal point for discussion and review of project financial issues. These include all issues relating to the management of the budget project, as well as analysis of potential building projects, or building costs in relation to similar building projects affordability for the town of Concord. So we had a nice discussion on what our role is. Then we had a brief discussion basically on what the difference is between a MSBA project and a non-MSBA project. And some of the research that we did is there's not much different when it comes to the financials. There is obviously that extra layer of protection from the MSBA, but the MSBA audit process is actually very limited. They're primarily concerned with making sure that only eligible project costs are submitted by the district. But in the end, the towns, the select board, the building committee, superintendent, the auditors, and bond counsel are all collectively responsible for this fiscal management of the project. In addition, we went over the dashboard that he'll be presenting to us basically every meeting. They actually presented this to us when we interviewed them, and I believe it is updated on our website, the monthly financials, and how it sort of will continue to mirror how the MSBA does their financials, the same account codes, et cetera, same categories. We also looked at the current financials to date for both Hill and SMMA, and I think that's going to be a later discussion that we'll have today. So we can talk about that. I think it's another discussion item. So that's pretty much what we discussed. A couple other things that was floated out there. We discussed change orders, when those are going to come, which are going to be years away. Potentially setting a limit that the finance committee can hear and essentially sort of approve those, so it's not taking up too much time in these big committee meetings, etc. So some things that we can just bring to you all in a summary rather than having large discussions taking up time in these meetings. So that was essentially it. I may be missing some things. Court, Matt, John.
Well, Jared, I wondered if maybe you wanted to socialize the number that we seem to be coming to consensus on in terms of that threshold.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So the number that we threw out there was $5,000. Anything, a change order of under $5,000 could essentially be approved at the subcommittee level. The reason for that is because many of our change orders could be lower than that. There's going to be ones essentially under $1,000. Obviously, the bigger ones would be brought to the committee, but the lower under $5,000 would make sense for the subcommittee level.
So, and also it's just worth comparing to other school building projects. There are thresholds that go up to 20,000 depending on the project. But we felt like, and then if you look at the school committee, they had a lower threshold for approval, but when you look at operational budgets, you would be sort of less expecting to have unexpected expenses. Whereas, in construction projects is a very dynamic environment. So we felt like this was a good compromise for Concord's culture and traditions. So would just be curious what again, this isn't a vote, but we're just trying to understand, what the committee feels about something like that.
We thought it was a conservative and cautious approach and number.
If you're looking for feedback, I like it. I agree. I think that's a good conservative, cautious approach.
Okay, it's not an urgent point. It's just something we want to kind of get socialized. Thanks.
Yeah. And lastly, we just discussed, how the financials will be tracked, because that was really important. So we discussed basically that the town, John, Stephen, will have their set of numbers, as well as myself and what we have, and then every month we will reconcile that against what Hill has. So as long as our three numbers match every single month, and we start having our projections are all matching, we feel that we can have a financial tracking that is equal to or better than MSBA.
And Jared, would I be correct in saying that John and Stephen's offices are the first point of contact for the flow of all that financial information coming in terms of obligations?
They would be, only because all of the money goes through, since it's a town project, it goes through the town.
Right.
So they would be, yeah. But John and I will be linked hand in hand.
Got it. So you've got some layers, some redundancy in there just for assurances, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? And we're gonna be meeting probably less frequently until really we get into the construction phase. But we will. We're still working on when that next meeting is. I believe it's middle of this month. Was it the 19th? I should have pulled that up. The next, I have that.
It is no.
because that is a Sunday.
See if I
Let's
can
see.
find- Um, I'm not sure I see it noted for some reason, Jared. We'll have to go back to our notes.
We'll have to go back to our notes. I thought I had a placeholder in mind.
I think we had the 15th, Wednesday, the 15th.
I see
That is
that in my
correct.
calendar as
It-
well. I see the
it-
15th.
At 8 o'clock. Yep,
That's right.
sorry about that.
Great.
Great.
Anything else for Jared and his subcommittee before moving on? Feel free to tune in on the 15th if that's confirmed. Okay. If nothing else, we will move on to item number 5, schematic design. First, I will turn to Court. You led me to believe you were just going to be here by phone today, so.
Yeah, I got lucky and cleared the decks a little bit.
Oh, excellent. Good for you. So we appreciate seeing you more than just hearing
Thank
you.
you.
So I will turn to you for a design subcommittee, the
Very good.
recommendations that came out of our
Okay.
meeting on Tuesday.
Only last night did the subcommittee members see a first draft of minutes of our meeting of when? Tuesday? When was it? 31st. And I hope people will agree it was a productive meeting. I want to thank the design team for the support they provided so that it was indeed an effective meeting. Kristen, you've got the slides ready to go and you probably have slide share capacity, am I right? So we took a look at the window solutions presented to us, slide 12 and thereabouts. And we looked at 2 options brought forward to us. One, this kind of window configuration and pattern, and then another one that you may see in a moment. This was the alternative, and for a number of reasons. One, the perhaps difficulty with a whiteboard and exterior window distractions in the same place, and maybe glare issues with that whiteboard. But also an aesthetic, the simplicity of the option 1 on your left, that and the glare and daylighting factors of these 2 options brought us to option 1 as the preferred at the present time. We took no formal votes. We decided that if things were quite difficult or divisive, we would give you data in the form of votes as to our opinions. But instead, having generated general consensus, we felt comfortable bringing back option 1 as the preferred. Anybody else want to speak to that? I'll start with Kristen.
No, I think that captures it great, Court. Thanks.
Okay. And the tape will be up shortly and the full slide deck will be available. We moved on to looking at the exterior facings, and we looked at and discussed at some length 4 possibles. And we want you to know that we could play with color palettes all day long. And in fact, we will be playing with color palettes. But we looked at these general distinctions between the changing light pattern to the left called mist, the traditional solid, the grain look, and finally texture with alternating horizontal rows of brick, 1 row protruding ½ an inch out and the other looking recessed. We had no sentiments leaning toward the traditional red brick. And we did, so we've got some detail here. We did ultimately land on number 3, if we can go back to that earlier slide, or a detail, this one referred to as grain. And you can see we've got a desert sort of palette on the left and a little more orange introduced on the right. We thought this was the preferred based on polling everybody after the discussion. However, weren't sold necessarily on the color itself, but rather on the pattern that we thought was traditional enough to stand the test of time, but unique enough to be indeed interesting and distinctive. So it was that grain one that we wanted Saul and Kristen's team to go back and work on with other color options that we could consider to bring to you. And then finally, that fourth solution, texture, was one that we did not drop out of the running, but we did debate the various merits and demerits of the texture. But that one remains in the running for us as well, with the third one, the grain, being the preferred from the perspective of the design subcommittee. Anything to add, Kristen, members of the subcommittee?
No.
All right. We then moved on to the new Auditorium Solutions that there we go. That's the one we pulled out. And so back one slide to that auditorium. We looked at alternatives to option two being the one that I think most people understood was the current solution. We looked at two hybrid kinds of alternatives. Far left, a partition mechanical with fold-out seatings, also mechanical. This would provide a flat floor and a black box and make the auditorium into potentially two spaces, two teaching spaces. The other hybrid was lower right, where you'll see no partition. Instead, you'll see a well, excuse me, that's still the first one with partition retracted now, isn't it, Kristen?
Yes.
And then we had another one where we had no partition, but we had a low slope in the front of the auditorium near the stage and an elevated section in the rear. After some discussion and learning that the music educators were not making a strong case for moving away from the design that we had in hand, we came back to the earlier design that we added. You'll recall we started with no auditorium, we went to a 270 seat auditorium, and then we went with vote of this committee to a 420 auditorium. One of the benefits of this traditional one is that we will have a superior auditorium, we believe, although a lot of work has to be done, acoustics and so on, needless to say. But we've got, we believe, better sight lines here, and we have none of the potential issues of a compromise kind of solution with a hybrid to your far left or a hybrid to your far right. So we landed squarely on this one. We then started to look at interior finishes, but this with some other work that we have yet to do at a meeting coming up soon is work in progress. We looked at specifically burnished concrete on the floor, linoleum, vinyl, and so on, knowing that we'll have different solutions for different parts of the building and different costs and different maintenance issues with those different surfaces. So that is work that remains. And then finally, as I noted earlier, we had public comments. These were from Dean Banfield, our FinCom observer, but speaking as an individual who made a case for bringing to the community again, resurfacing the community-facing, community features and community benefits of the building so that people are well informed about what's coming their way beyond serving well the educational needs of the kids. That's what I've got. Did I capture it okay, folks? And we'll be setting up our agenda and meeting again as soon as possible.
Gord, do you want to talk about the thinking about the next agendas and all that, where we're going and schedule and that sort of thing?
I want to recommend that we do that offline, where I'll simply check in with each individual member and assemble a draft agenda and then send it out as a shared document for comment.
Yeah, I have one little comment on the auditorium. One aspect of the auditorium that people should, I believe the auditorium has been rotated, and that's a change versus what you see in the existing floor plans. So that's another update in terms of the option that we selected.
All right. That being so, then, well, we're on that subject. Kristen, can you give us a little clarity on that?
Yes, the auditorium that we had been showing in the plans to date was in fact, it had more the orientation and appearance of option 3, where it had the steeper sloped seating in the back and the low slope in the front. That being said, the committee hadn't discussed slope explicitly, so it was, as schematic design is, a testing of different layouts. And so we understand from the design subcommittee that the recommendation is not only the low slope floor, but also this orientation. But it is true that all of the plans to date had the other rotation, as Charlie noted, but going forward, we will be updating that and working with our specialty consultants to refine it.
You know, I should say, by way of bringing it up, I mean, I believe it is an improvement, significant improvement to reorient it the way you did. So that was good.
But we did not discuss orientation specifically, so we can spend a couple of minutes on that when we reconvene. So
Can I ask a question about the auditorium?
Not for me to say, but yes.
Yes.
So in the subcommittee discussion, was there consideration about being able to host a town meeting?
No. Given the, I'll give you my personal recollection, and that is that early on this was under active discussion, and then dropped out as not being feasible or practical. And we could re-examine it, but it'd be another high school solution, in my opinion, where you'd need auditorium and adjacent rooms to accommodate night one, which would always exceed 400 in a typical year.
Thank you.
I see Matt, Dawn, and Pat.
Yep, Matt Johnson. Thank you for that. I didn't see his
Yeah,
hand.
so, I mean, I don't know how practical this is, but it did occur to me when I saw that hybrid solution that had the partition wall, that if it was flipped left to right, that there might be some opportunity to use that partition space as alternate PE, because at that point it would be facing the gym. And I know, you know, and it's very likely that its usage patterns and time frame, you know, would be very different from the auditorium in many circumstances. It's just maybe a kind of a crazy idea, but seeing that we had to, you know, drop that space, and it is kind of a, you know, a flat space that could be used as black box, et cetera, it could potentially maybe even serve that purpose. The other just comment was that the textured wall solution, I am a little concerned that could end up becoming the climbing wall, if you will, for so it's just considering the population.
Yes, the design subcommittee noted that early on in the discussion that it would be perhaps quite attractive. And
Matt, you must have met my kids.
So so Matt's point is we'll have strong advocates for the textured wall, right?
Right.
They won't be a voting age, however.
Right.
For a second, I thought my microphone was unmuted when my son walked in and said, "What is that? Can you ask for a climbing wall?" He legitimately 10 minutes ago popped in to say goodbye and asked. But I can tell you his bouldering's not good enough to go half an inch on a brick. So
I don't want to get away from our agenda for too long, but I will note that some of us have been to college visits with our kids where after they boast this and that feature, they show us the climbing wall or the silly stuff that's fun for kids and distinguishes one college from another. Climbing walls among them.
I put them in elementary schools.
Yeah, there you go.
They're-
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Kids love them. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, they're more horizontal than vertical,
Right.
but yeah,
Yeah.
they're fun.
So that's what we've got. Thank you, folks.
I see, sorry
I-
for to interrupt. I see Heather's hand.
Yeah, thanks. I just had a question on the auditoriums too, and just out of curiosity as much because I watched part of this but didn't hear the whole discussion. In comparing the three, the one that you had on the right in those images, which was not the separated one, but the slightly sloped. Can you just explain more the downside? You were saying the downsides of that steeper slope, and I don't understand. I just didn't catch or don't understand what that was. What's the downside of that versus the upside? What I see as an upside being, oh, there's more for those people in that section. There's a little better visibility because you don't have heads in front of you. But I just wasn't sure the comparison there.
Well, I'm no expert here, but I would say the increased visibility from the height advantage on the right is somewhat offset by the fact that the entire layout is longer and narrower, hence they're further away also.
Got it. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, no,
Totally
we didn't
missed that.
point out those numbers at the bottom, Heather.
Okay, stage width, that makes all the difference. Okay. Gotcha. Thank you.
And to come back to Matt Johnson's note about the alternate PE, that is in fact how the hybrid option emerged, was just to create more flexibility and alternative uses for space. But Lori might be able to, or Justin might be able to speak to the fact that they did go back to the teachers and look at the idea to see if that had legs. And in the design subcommittee, that was discussed.
Yeah, I guess I'll just be sure we're all clear. The teachers were pretty intrigued by it for sure, but I see all the other pros and cons. So traditional it is. We work with them.
And I think, Lori, when we look at the scheduling and usage of the now larger gym, I think we have a little more confidence that we've got some scheduling options for all PE there that were not there earlier.
Right. Much of their concern is over our current schedule, which we always knew wasn't going to work in the new school. So that'll be how we try to address the issues.
And can I actually, ask the same question, but on that one, in terms of the downsides of that, when you say there are limitations, Lori, is it similar? Is it just that the auditorium is long and narrow and the seating in back won't have as good visibility, or are there other risks and downsides?
I'll talk more from the instructional side, the programmatic side. And the schedule is really the driver. Right now, we run 4 different music spaces at once in the afternoons because the instrumental music lessons occur at the elementary schools in the mornings. So the teachers come over to the middle school in the afternoon. We knew a long time ago in this process, we were not going to get 4 spaces. So we're at 2 spaces plus the auditorium. So we know we're going to need to work within that. And that's just a scheduling discussion and having to look at how we appropriate them and get the music lessons in and all of that. So we knew a long time ago it wasn't going to be able to stay the way it is. So that's fine. I don't know that the hybrid totally fixed that. So I think there were a lot of unknowns to the hybrid that I'm supportive of going with the traditional, and we'll keep working on the space and schedule sides of the issues.
Okay.
And Phil can speak a few words to the architectural differences between just a constant slope floor or the blend that's option 3. You don't want to.
So the options 1 and 3 have the combined low slope and the steeply sloping. I think one of the things that we heard early on was concern about the high school, which is all steeply sloping. This has got about 60% low slope and 40% steeply sloped. So it is a hybrid in that sense. I think what we were hearing from the committee was the desire for a very conventional looking auditorium. So the option 2 certainly achieves that. Option one does have the opportunity to be used in multiple ways, as was pointed out by Matt. The possibility of using it for alternative PE, for chorus, for large group instruction, for black box theater, and so on. But again, that's something that has to be expressed as a desire to have those additional uses to consider option one. Are there specific questions about it?
Yes, so I think it might be, before we go to the sustainability subcommittee, I wouldn't mind taking the moment to check in with the CMSBC to get confirmation of the design subcommittee recommendations, because we did this work in advance and have this presentation now and would like to move forward with the recommendations. Unless things need to be explicitly revisited, we would need to know that. So if there's an opportunity to check in and see if those recommendations can be accepted, then we can continue on that path.
And I think that would mean, Kristen, that we continue to work on the path that the full committee gives us and then come back with additional detail as necessary.
Kristen, were you asking for a motion?
So we know that we are not to take, there's no direction coming from the design subcommittee or the sustainability subcommittee. So but decisions were made or recommendations have been put forth. So we just need to know if we can move forward with those recommendations.
So in effect, what we're saying is, are you in accord with the window option that we are bringing forward with the preferred and second choice for building skin, and with the auditorium as presented today, with nothing specific to bring you as to finishes for flooring or interiors or any of the other work we're doing, just those three items today.
Quick question in order to answer your question. On the siding, my question for auditorium. First of all, I love option 3 with the wood look. Thank you for building that in as an option. I think it's great. And so I certainly support going forward with that one. My question is how much could it possibly change or shift going forward? I ask partially because I had some more ideas I thought I'd throw in them. Actually, not lots of ideas, but looking at another building, in fact, looking at Beverly again, they had kind of a wood look with what looked like almost a stone foundation at the bottom. It would making that suggestion be going away from this or just adding to it in the tweaks that you go forward? Is that still, but is that type of suggestion still a possibility, or should I zip it and know it's too late for that?
Well, if you bring it to us, then Saul's going to come back to us with his analysis.
Okay. I don't want to slow things down or mess things up. I just, in looking at the wood, I thought, wow, that would go really well with this type of look too. While we're talking about it, that was my suggestion.
And thank you. And with that grain, we were more keen on the fundamental aspects of that kind of pattern without being committed to any kind of color scheme yet.
Right.
I like his question is to Kristen is these are broad strokes. This is the big box of what we're recommending, or what the design subcommittee is recommending. Within that, there'll be some variation, but you guys need to have some direction to go in. I personally am very fond of 3. That's where I would go. But am I correct? You just need to know which of these design directions to go into, and then we'll get more specificity later.
That's exactly correct. And in so doing, we're allowing them to abandon some of the other solutions.
Right.
So I just wanted to support Heather's comment to the degree that, you know, while I like option 3, that when we talk about naturalistic, there is this metaphorical reference, I think, in our minds of, well, what kind of nature are we representing? Are we representing fields of grain? Are we representing earth? And I think what Heather is suggesting is this sort of metaphorical reference of stone and wood, which I do think is actually sort of closer to my heart as to what naturalistic around here would reflect. Yes, we see some earth, but usually it's under some greenery, you know, but I think wood and stone does reflect that. So again, if there's any guidance or if there's any fourth option that could be explored, it's that, though I do think that the earth option is also a reasonable one.
I just want to point out that I think back in feasibility from just holding a budget standpoint, we sort of landed in a brick cost. I don't know. Is it?
No, I think it's more of a color, not.
Oh, okay. So it's a color and not a.
I think it's really, it could be made out of whatever. It just, does it visually give you a sense of.
Got it.
Exactly.
Okay,
I was not suggesting we have a big stone foundation boulder by boulder. More that there was some siding that.
Post and beam school, yeah.
Right.
As a designer, I took it literally because I am doing stone as a base and wood phenolic and as materials, but I know enough to know that those are wildly out of our price, you know, the budget number that we've sort of decided on. So
as much as that would be wonderful. I wasn't suggesting that, just a matter of as we go down this path of option 3, and I support that should be our direction, you know, are there still options of tweaks that are, I don't want to say superficial, but superficial or external look versus what's the material you're building with. So,
well, would it make sense to pull the texture question out and go with the 2 items that were fairly solid on, the auditorium and the windows, and defer on the texture until we have another chance to look at this and Saul has a chance to kind of spec it out so we can see it. That might be a way around this.
Well, and unless people are still thinking of option 4, which is I'm going to call it the climbing wall, I don't think we need to do that. I think we focus on option 3, and then as we get further down that path of option 3, there are various ways to look at it. But I don't think I wouldn't at least say that we still want to consider the others of the 4 options.
I think that's the direction that SMMA and team are hoping for so that they can move forward. Again, this is SD, so whether it's yellow brick or red brick is somewhat irrelevant as from a cost standpoint, because we're trying to set a budget, right? So brick is mostly brick for the most part. There are definitely offshoots in cost, but Kristen, if the committee is comfortable saying that, is that direction that you'd be happy to receive?
Yes, we definitely need the option at a larger scale, and the color and details of the patterning can be worked out in subsequent design phases.
So I don't know if this requires a vote, but I would just, you know, I think we need to move forward because I know Matt's got to leave at 9.
Oh, yeah,
and
right.
He's going to be making his sustainability recommendations. So I'm wondering if we can we get a consensus on option 3, or if anybody feels strongly, speak now or forever hold your peace. But I think we need to move forward.
So Pat, if we did what we did at the design subcommittee, we got as much clarity as everybody needed, and then we simply went around the room and heard from each person. And
perfect.
Because it didn't appear to be conflictual or divisive, we thought we didn't need to cut it any finer with a vote. But
we don't have a vote on the agenda, so I think consensus is probably sufficient to keep them moving forward unless there are strong objections.
I just, as a process matter, I hope I don't offend anybody, I would hope that we get each member to weigh in so that there isn't a tacit approval through silence on the part of anybody.
Okay, so this is just about the facade, the brick facade then, or do you want it on all three items?
All three, please.
All three.
All three at once.
Okay, so we're talking about the window pattern, we're talking about the brick solution as far as option number 3, let's call it the wood grain. I think that's what they termed it. And Heather, by the way, you did get props for suggesting. I don't know that you were on the design subcommittee, but Saul said Heather's email. Heather sent a nice long email.
Oh, I didn't hear that. Right. That was nice.
Yeah, so so I'm not surprised you loved it. It was
It's shocking.
No,
Wait, that's my idea. I love it.
It was good feedback. And then so
my idea.
The wood grain texture or patterning on the brick, and then finally the auditorium. So if I'll go down the list, if everyone can say I'm good with all, or I'm
Sorry,
you know,
since I think I'm at the top of the list when you do roll calls, can I see
put
the?
you at the bottom.
Okay, I just want to see the tech. I'm sorry, maybe I'm the only person, but can I see it again? Can I see the
three
window?
or just the brick?
No, the brick in the window.
The brick in the window. Kristen, would you pull that up for Stephen? And Stephen, I'll call you at the end. Nope, I won't put you on the spot. Give you some, Kristen, if you would share, I'll start with Jared and we'll go in order. So it's window unless you're just fine with everything, say I'm good with all three. We'll go window pattern, we'll go brick pattern, and then we'll go auditorium. And if you have questions, Stephen, in between people, you can just ask Kristen or ask Court for clarity. So the recommendations on the left, and you can see the daylight and glare analysis at the bottom, Stephen. Okay, and then she's finding the brick, which is is it wood grain, wood pattern? What's I forget what you guys, just grain. Okay. So option 3 is what we're talking about pursuing with, different color variations. And then, did you see the auditorium? It was option 2.
No, the auditorium, it looks good. I just want to double check that it was, because I agree with Matt on the climbing wall thing. And I can tell you that and we've all seen a million buildings, but I find that the buildings that have the relief with bricks that stick out, they trap dirt and pollen, and I feel like they don't look as clean as other ones. And water and birds like to perch on them from time to time. And so I'm good. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay. So is that your official yes? Since you are at the top of the list.
Yes to all 3.
Awesome. Okay, Jared, how are we feeling today?
I like them. Whatever's cheapest. Just kidding.
That's a fair statement.
No, I think I'm really good with all 3.
Okay, great. Thanks. Matt Johnson.
All set. Yep.
Great. Thank you, Lori.
I'm good with all 3.
Thank you, Lori. Justin.
Good morning. I'm sorry, I did miss a little bit of that, but I was able to review the materials beforehand, and I'm good in all 3.
Okay. Thank you, Justin. John Harris, how are you feeling today?
This is good. I agree with the 3 recommendations.
Awesome. Thank you. Russ Hughes.
Yep, I'm good with all 3.
Thanks, Russ. Peter Fashalis.
Yep, I'm good with all 3.
Thank you. Alexa.
I'm actually enthusiastic about all 3. Yeah.
Awesome. Very good. Good to hear. Court.
Yes.
Thank you. Heather Bout.
Yeah. I don't mean to be such a jabberjaw. I am good with all 3. I can't help just saying that on the auditoriums, I did love the hybrid idea. And I just have to say it, but I understand the benefits of the other one and the wide stance. And so, yes, I am enthusiastic about all 3.
Great. Thank you for your comments. Frank.
Good.
Awesome. Thank you, Frank. Chris Popoff.
I'm good, thanks.
Thank you, Chris. Charlie Parker. Do we still have Charlie?
Charlie's there. You're muted, Charlie.
Oh, he's not on my.
I'm very happy with all 3.
Awesome. Thank you, Charlie. Matt Root.
Yeah, I'm good with all 3, just to provide a little more feedback. I mean, I chimed in with Stephen Crane's comments. I mean, on the textured one, I would be worried about water catchment and kind of exasperating erosion with that texture. On the windows, my biggest concern, I just want to maximize the daylight, and it looks like we didn't review the metrics there in this meeting at least, but it looks like option 1 was the best on those metrics. So I definitely like that one. And then Heather, I agree with you on concept at the high level for the auditorium, but I would defer to Dr. Hunter and Justin about maybe it doesn't work as well in the details. So I'm good on the standard layout as well.
Given what Matt said, I wonder if we can pause in our rotation here and have Kristen speak to this slide, because Matt brings up an important point.
Yes, here we did have the metrics in the design subcommittee meeting, and this is your option 1 windows. That is the current recommendation, and here's option 3. And as you can see, we looked at it in scenario 1 with no sunshades and no shelf. And then scenario 2 adds sunshades to the southern side and light shelf to the north. And then scenario 3 is the same as 2, adding a light shelf to the south also. So through these incremental changes, option 1 does achieve all of the daylighting and glare thresholds and goals. More and has the added benefit of greater views, as you saw in these slides, that the clerestory is a lesser view. So so while this one had performed better on glare, we do believe we can manage that through light shelves and so on, and maximize option 1 and hit all of the metrics that the design subcommittee and actually the sustainability subcommittee had been looking at.
Great, thank you.
Awesome. So you're good, Matt, I presume?
Yes, very good.
Excellent. Thank you. Pat?
I'm very enthusiastic about all 3.
Excellent. And same. And I just want to point out to those watching and listening, my 6-year-old had popped his head in, and the slide you were just on that showed the daylight and the glare next to each other with the 2 options. He asked what the colors were, green and orange. And I said, well, that's the amount of daylight and the amount of glare. He chose option B, and he's going to be a student, hopefully, at this school. He chose option B because it's less glare. So for what it's worth, he actually read the diagram and understood that one had more glare than the other. So I was shocked. I was like, wow, good for you. I guess those diagrams are helpful to the layperson. So anyway, I'm enthusiastic about all of it. I think the glare can be dealt with. I think the amount of daylight and connection to views is super important. So thank you, design team and design subcommittee, for all the hard work that went into all the options and the debate and discussion around them.
And Don,
yes.
Sorry. I mean, can we just tease out, because I think the glare is really just an issue on one face, right? On the north side, which we have a lot of classrooms, there's no glare issues on the north side. But yeah, as you're saying, it's only on that one south facing side. So
that's correct. And great point, Matt. The north just gets diffused light throughout the day, and the glare that's run on the south side.
Yep.
Those metrics. Yes. Thank you for pointing that out. That's a great point. Okay, good. So I think you have direction, Kristen and team. Thank you all for your hard work on all of those topics.
Thank you.
So with that, Matt, we've given you 19 exact minutes to give your update and have to leave for the meeting that you have. So take it away.
That's great. That's great. Thank you, everyone. And I think we'd like to go along a similar track. There are a number of open questions that are in front of the sustainability subcommittee. We certainly didn't get to all of them, but we believe that we got to the biggest ones, and we have specific recommendations that we would like to bring to the full committee here. And similarly, as we just did with the design committees, advance those to the design team if this full committee is in agreement with our recommendations. So with that, happy to kind of walk through these issues. The first one was natural ventilation, and looking at natural ventilation as a method for introducing outside air into the building. This was being advocated by a community member, David Berg, who's a indoor air quality specialist. Ultimately, we didn't pick up this, or we're not encouraging the design team to pursue this option. So it relies on openings both to the outside of the building and within the building, and then some high up relief. But basically, it enables larger quantities of air to move through the building under appropriate conditions. And when those conditions aren't provided, there would be fans that would be placed throughout the building to help facilitate airflow. This would be as opposed to a more standard system that would be fully ducted throughout the building and providing fresh air that's drawn from a few point locations. So we ended up not going for natural ventilation out of concerns for acoustic reasons. It's a different design than is in all of the other buildings. So Russ had concerns about this being a very different system than he has to maintain in other buildings. And also just the kind of novelty of it. There's not a lot of examples in our area, and certainly not in public schools. So we didn't feel, we liked the idea and the potential of moving more air through the building, but didn't feel like this was the right strategy. And we feel like we can still deliver good outdoor air via a more traditional mechanical system. So then looking at that, and we have a summary of our recommendations that Kristen will show at the end here of the slides. We then looked at the kind of distribution of that ventilation within individual spaces. And I know that Andy has presented in the past, I think, to the full committee on displacement ventilation. Ultimately, our recommendation is to not look at full displacement ventilation for the whole building, but to look at it for a few select spaces. Andy has identified the primary target will be that auditorium that we were just talking about, that's best suited for this type of strategy. The benefit being that, as you can see in the picture on the right, the kind of pollutants that we're all emitting get drawn up and away from folks, and therefore decrease the opportunity for spread that we're all heightenedly aware of right now given COVID, rather than a more traditional system on the left, which is mixing it throughout the room. I mean, we're relying on Andy and the design team's recommendation about the appropriateness for the distribution within the classrooms. We think that we can still provide proper airflow and good air quality, but that taking it to displacement was just kind of a step too far in the classrooms. But given its benefits, we would still like to explore using it in the auditorium. And I guess I'll highlight that all of our recommendations are kind of the direction we would like to see the design team go in. They're certainly not mandates and not trying to dictate specific details, but we would like to see the design team investigate these options more and then return with details and design. I'm going to pause there to make sure I'm going at an okay pace and explaining or not explaining. Okay, so the next question that we were tackling was whether we should look at not fully air conditioning the whole building. This could be an opportunity to save on some first capital costs by installing less mechanical equipment. And also reducing operational costs by reducing energy consumption. The compromise, of course, is that there would be less control on the conditioning of the air. There would be higher humidity rates within the building, and there'd be higher temperature set points. And the committee felt that we should do a fully air conditioned building and achieve the indoor environment quality that that we all kind of feel most comfortable in. We also looked at the EUI. We have the target that we have set and been talking about early on was a EUI of energy use intensity of 25. SMMA has run some initial energy calculations. You can see the breakdown. There are the various assumptions that go into those individual numbers. I'll call back to the benefit of natural ventilation would be saving a little energy on ventilation. You can see the ventilation kind of band is that third from the top, that 1.5. So also under the guise that it is, or 1.9, I guess. Thank you, Kristen. Fourth from the top, that it is one of the smaller loads within the building, and that we want to keep in mind that we're focusing on the big stuff, and obviously that's still the space heating load within this building. So that's why as we move through design, we'll be talking a lot more about insulation and air tightness, because that's where our loads are. So here is a summary of the specific questions that were in front of the the sustainability subcommittee. We did have 2 meetings. We had one longer meeting at the beginning of the month in August, where we kind of reviewed the options and discussed everyone's ideas and opinions. And then we waited till the second meeting last week to take a formal vote on each of these. These are the questions that were in front of us. As you can see, we're not recommending to the full committee the natural ventilation system or full displacement ventilation within the building. We are recommending the design team pursue displacement in a few key locations. We are recommending not recommending a partial partial air conditioning. So conversely, we're recommending full air conditioning throughout the whole building. There are a couple more at the bottom here that we looked at. This was Matt Johnson and others had raised concerns about the EV number of EV charging stations as specified in the EASY code. And so we're recommending to reduce that number from what is listed in the EASY code down to the 2%, which is in line with the LEED goals. That'll equate to roughly three spaces, we believe. Jumping down to number 8, although not installing charging equipment, we would still, based on recommendations from SMMA, that given what they're seeing in other projects, that we still provide infrastructure that's mostly conduit to parking areas, so that there could be future installation of additional charging stations. I mean, I'll make the comment that I think there's pretty there's full agreement within the subcommittee that the school should not be paying for anyone to charge their cars. These would be used for town and school fleets, and that if there is future build out of EV charging stations, that there would be some kind of mechanism that who's ever pulling that charge would be paying for it at the station. And there are lots of companies working on that business model. The last one is which we didn't discuss in the first meeting, but kind of took a quick pulse of the subcommittee, and there was agreement. The design team is starting to look at mechanical systems and layout and was looking for our guidance on if we would be comfortable with mechanical equipment being placed on the roof. And there are lots of reasons why there's benefits and drawbacks to that. One drawback from the sustainability perspective is it takes the place of PV. But the committee felt that the benefits of locating that mechanical equipment on the roof certainly outweigh the drawbacks, and that there's alternatives and solutions to the drawbacks. So we'd advocate that the design team move forward with a standard kind of roof placement of outside mechanical equipment. I'd love to hear comments or thoughts from the subcommittee members to make sure I covered everything or represented everything as we discussed.
This is Charlie. I have just one clarification on displacement, investigating options for displacement. Earlier in the presentation, you commented on the auditorium. I think that the evaluation for displacement should include the other large spaces as well. We have the auditorium is a large public space. The gym is a large public space. Let's see if displacement would make sense in those spaces also as part of that exercise. I think that was the gist of what we were discussing.
Yes, thank you for pointing that out, Charlie. And I think that's how the language is written there, and that's the expectation. I guess I'm picking up on Andy's comments that he's kind of targeting the auditorium, but certainly you're right. Kristen, if you could note, we would like to at least see if there are other spaces that are where that strategy would be applicable.
Can I just make a clarifying point about displacement in the gym? I know we've had endless conversations, it feels like, about the size of the gym and the runouts and everything. Just be forewarned that the size of the ductwork for displacement ventilation is quite large. I have multiple buildings right now with displacement ventilation throughout. And it could start to, our designers will need to be very careful with where the, because that ductwork, as you can imagine, comes all the way to the floor in order to distribute air low in order for it to rise. So we had some complications on some projects just trying to get it into those large spaces without having corners and dangerous spots for students as they're running, say, through the gymnasium. So just a word to the wise, and be forewarned that that study may include some of those duct sizes and chase sizes.
Yeah, thank you, Don. And I think that might be why Andy is kind of starting to steer us away from that space.
It's a real concern. I'm telling you, these ducts, like the kids this age could climb through them. They're enormous because the air is moving at such a low velocity. The ducts are quite large. So just a word to the wise. Are there, yep, Court, I saw a hand.
Yeah, Matt, can you give us another minute or two on natural ventilation before we abandon it? I wouldn't want to discount something because we're unfamiliar with it if it's been proven elsewhere. But in my limited research, where it's been proven to have really remarkable energy efficiencies is in hotter climates and high-rise buildings. Is that also part of the reason why we're not thinking about it for Concord, Massachusetts?
Yeah, I think certainly our climate is a factor in that. A couple of the examples that we looked at were from buildings that are located on the West Coast. Mm-hmm. There are solutions around our climate that just based, because traditionally that system is looking at differences between inside and outside in order to create the airflow, and we have that in good supply on our swing months, like September coming up here, hopefully, as we start to cool off. But it does get the temperature difference does get pretty large in the winter, and not quite large enough in the summer. So the solution to that, and David talked about this, is introducing, it's not a totally passive system. In our climate, we would still be required to have some mechanical fans and some ductwork, as opposed to a totally naturally ventilated building. So that's the solution. So it does start to reduce the kind of potential energy savings. It increases the installation costs, because now you suddenly do need more mechanical equipment. I mean, I agree with you that we shouldn't shy away from something just because it hasn't been well done in other buildings. I guess, and this is speaking for me personally as one member of the subcommittee, those benefit, I think there are still kind of risks associated with that newness, and I think that we can achieve good indoor air quality with the traditional system. And so I don't see the benefits of this natural or hybrid natural ventilation system outweighing those risks.
Thank you. Yeah, full disclosure, the research I did was, I think, South Africa.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, I think it is cool and exciting, and it's fun to think about. I'm not, in my personal opinion, I don't think it's the right thing to pursue for this particular project.
Thank you. Very helpful.
And I appreciate your doing research and looking at it.
Chris Popoff, I see a hand.
Just a couple of things. Matt, thank you so much for all this. For those of us who have not done as much research, because we've been looking into other things, I find this very reassuring at the thoroughness and the care that's gone into this, and it's super helpful for those of us who don't pay as close attention to it. But a couple points that seem obvious. We touched on fenestration in our subcommittee, and we talked about operable windows. And I know, just as a layperson, when you have a lot of operable windows, a lot of the ventilation and calculations all change when the windows are open and closed. So I think it's something people should keep in mind. This is not a closed building like an office building with inoperable windows. And then another just minor point on mechanicals on the roof, and I appreciate that they will take away from potential space for photovoltaic. It may also be options of photovoltaic that are above the mechanicals, but not interfering with the mechanicals. That may be more of an aesthetic choice, having a set of PVs that are above the plane of the others, but it's just another thing that might be thrown into the hopper to try to maximize PV on the roof when that comes to pass. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for that, Chris. I mean, just a couple thoughts that hopefully I'm synthesizing from our subcommittee meeting. I mean, depending on what happens with PV and CMLP, I think the expectation is that if there is a system size that will deliver net zero energy for this project, even if we had no mechanical systems on the roof, we'll still probably need some canopy within the parking space. And so it seemed like giving up a little roof area and making the parking canopy a little bit bigger was a reasonable trade-off. On the your point, thank you for bringing up the point also about the operable windows. That's one that Kristen and the design team have also mentioned and highlighted, that yes, the plan is for operable windows, so there will be opportunities for occupants to open and close windows if they're so inclined. I think what we like about the fully ducted mechanical system is that if there are occupants who don't like dealing with windows and don't operate them, they'll still be getting good ventilation through that ducted system.
Any other questions for Matt? Because I see it's 9:02 and I want to be sensitive to your schedule, Matt. I presume you're late, so.
That's I can be a couple minutes
Okay.
late here, but I want to make sure everyone is comfortable and we leave this in a good place today, so that Kristen and her team can get good guidance from the full committee.
Okay, will we be looking to do the same thing we did with the design subcommittee recommendations, everyone? Is that something that we're comfortable doing? If maybe Kristen, you could pull up that last slide you had with the recommendations and not recommendations, and we'll go around. And Matt, I'm happy to start with you, and then you can obviously go back and review the recording or ask. We can give you an update in your absence, how things landed. But
Great, thank you, Dawn. Well, hopefully everyone knows my thoughts on this. I mean, I will say these were all unanimous decisions unanimous votes by the subcommittee. So I feel like this is the best path forward for this project at this time.
great, thank you, Matt. And you are free to exit.
Thanks, everyone. Sorry, I jumped off early. Take care.
I appreciate all your hard work and your subcommittee updates. So thank you for your time and your efforts and your expertise. So enjoy your day. Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone. Take care.
Bye, Matt.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're, just for clarity, we are looking for a general consensus agreement on number 3, everything in red or maroon, whatever you want to call it, 3, which is the displacement ventilation partial, presenting options for that. 6, which is the reduction of EV charging stations. 7, which is mechanical systems on the roof, and 8, targeting EV charging infrastructure for 10% as ready, which basically, I think Matt described it, but it's having the infrastructure in place for that.
We would actually, sorry, Dawn, I have to clarify, we'd actually look for consensus with all points because of understanding that we're not, what's not recommended, there's also consensus.
I see what you're saying. So consensus on all of these that we're not moving forward on the black would be moving forward on the red.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Kristen. All right, great. So Stephen Crane, how are you feeling about all of these?
I think I support the recommendations, and I also agree with the non-recommendations. The only thing I'll say experientially is Operable Windows will end up being problematic for maintaining building temperatures. And when I saw the slide on natural ventilation, all I could think about was my seasonal allergies and how miserable I'd be in a building that's naturally ventilated. And I think the same thing goes for Operable Windows. The air that comes out of these, especially the displaced system, there are usually filters in line. And so the air is actually usually of a higher quality than what you're getting out of the window, especially in the spring and the fall. So that's an editorial comment, but I support the committee's recommendations.
Great. Thank you, Stephen. Jared, how do you feel about these? Is Jared still with us?
I just logged into my other account, so I missed the last 30 seconds. So can you just come back to me?
Yeah, sure. You bet.
Great.
Don't let me forget you. Yeah, sounds like his audio's all messed up too. Okay, we are going to go, let me go back to my list. Matt Johnson.
So I do have a question, which is whether Operable Windows is something we've already voted.
Operable Windows are a lead requirement. So
requirement. Wow.
Yeah, you have to have them.
Undermine the energy efficiency. Yeah, it seems totally strange to me.
They're not of the extent that they really have a major impact on that. There are also some schools that opt for a notification if something's open, then something can be the ventilation can be disabled from. So there are a lot of ways to manage it, but it's not of the size where it's really a big impact, but it does make a big impact on comfort of the occupants and to have that control. So that's part of what comes from LEED.
Okay, with that proviso, then I totally agree with these recommendations. Sure.
Thank you, Matt. That's a great question. I knew the answer, but no, I'm laughing because it's every project. It's the teachers want it and the maintenance guys don't. And they're like, we just go around and steal all the handles, the cranks. And I'm like, don't tell me that. So I'm laughing because this is very much a topic that comes up. Okay, so Matt's good. Lori Hunter.
I am multitasking with a COVID case.
Oh,
So I
no.
was at the meeting and support all of these. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lori. Justin, are you still with us, Justin? I only see because Kristen's screen sharing. Justin, he's on the phone. I'm gonna come back. to
Yeah,
him
we're
if
in the
he-
first week of school. We're trying to be
Yep,
as.
totally get
attentive
it. Totally understand. If there are great objections, then just speak up. John Harris.
I agree.
Thank you, John. Russ Hughes.
I agree.
Russ is like, can you work on those operable windows though? For me? Peter Pachelis.
Yeah, I agree with all the recommendations. I just want to express thanks to the subcommittee. It seems like they've really done a nice, thorough job of vetting both the recommended one and the non-recommended ones. So thank you.
Excellent. I agree, Peter. Thank you for that. Alexa.
I can support these. They look great.
Great. Thank you, Alexa. Court Booth.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Heather Bout.
I am incredibly grateful that this subcommittee did all this work and totally support all the recommendations. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Frank Cannon.
Yes.
Thank you, Frank. Chris Popoff.
Yes.
Thank you, Chris. Charlie Parker. Charlie's still with us. Does anyone see Charlie? You're muted. I see you.
Yeah, I'm all good.
Okay, I figured you might be. You're on the subcommittee, but thank you for clarifying. We got Matt's okay. Pat Nelson.
I'm good.
Thank you, Pat. And I am good. And like everyone else said, eternally grateful for the subcommittee and all their hard work. So very much appreciate that. So looks like we didn't get Justin. He's still on the phone, but we understand he's got priorities. So with that, we will assume that that is a nod to move forward. Kristen, I hope that's enough for you.
And just for the vote, I'm going to also, sorry, just to come back to me. Also,
Yep.
yes, and also that was a wonderful presentation by them. Learned quite a bit, so fully support it. Thank you.
I told you I'd forget you, Jared.
It's okay, I didn't.
And thank you for not letting me. Okay, very good. All right, excellent. So we're moving on to updates to space summary and updates on summary of cost savings due diligence. Kristen, are those things you're prepared to speak to?
Yes, and I'll go through them quite quickly because they're just informational. We had a commitment to be letting you know as we make decisions that are in the positive direction of managing cost and potentially even reducing costs. So we have our list that we've been tracking. And so this ties into the space summary update. Whenever we have a small change in it, we will be sharing it out. So you have the whole list. But I do just want to note that we did review the cafeteria storage question that was raised by many on the committee and also with our furniture consultants and educational consultants in the school. And we are able to reduce 100 square feet there from decisions made about how much furniture needs to be stored and just sizing it to that space. So that is kind of a cost and it's not a lot, but it is in fact that refinement and due diligence that we promised. Similarly, in orange here, the original feasibility study guidance was to comply with easy code to the extent possible. We did have a caveat, and now that we've reviewed that with the sustainability subcommittee, there are fewer installed charging stations with what has been decided than what was in the feasibility study goals of full compliance with easy code. And again, this is consistent with what we said we would continue to study, and that would be savings over if all were installed. And then similarly, the natural ventilation, I think Matt began to speak to that, where the additional system and fans and work that would be required to provide that full natural ventilation system is a cost efficiency to be, again, consistent with our original air source heat pump strategy that we left off with in feasibility. And no other changes there. So then I'm going to pause on the cost risks and hand it over to Hill for a moment.
Ian, you or me?
You're up.
Okay, so market conditions.
This is September of 2021, and there's a lot of people looking at this, and this could be a 1-hour lecture. I promise it won't be a 1-hour lecture. We've done a lot of looking into the market. I talked to Lorraine, I talked to Kristen, I talked to Ian, and we thought it would be a good idea just to get people up to date on everyone in the industry's best guess on where prices are going, what the bidding market is and what we foresee in the future. So this will be relatively brief. We've spoken to estimators who have their ideas on things. We've talked to general contractors who have their ideas, not only on cost, but what the bidding market is. The design community has been following this closely, particularly regarding materials. I've spoken to several subcontractors, and then there are the authorities, people like the Engineering News Record, Turner has an index, and those are the people who have Engineering News Record talks about specific adding up steel, lumber, labor costs and coming up with a factor. Turner's kind of factors in that, and also what the bidding climate is and where they think that is. So what do we know? 2017 and 16 were about 2 or 3% increase in costs from one year to the next. 2018 was about 3%. 2019 was less than 2%, and 2020 was getting a little bit more volatile, but it was somewhere between 2 and 4%. So where are we in 2021? In the first 7 months, depending on who you talk to and what they're factoring, we're looking at about a 7 to 11% in 7 months. Why is that? So lumber, the good news with lumber is it went up, but now it's down to 2018 rates. So that's a little good news on what could happen to some of this future stuff. Steel is up 35% since just April. HVAC, switchgear, et cetera, has had about 10% increase since April. Drywall continues to be between drywallers, between insulation, studs, drywall. We're seeing a lot of claims on some of our other projects with drywallers who bid a job and now are freaking out on the cost, what it's costing them. So where's our guess moving forward? The word that everybody's using is volatile, and I think volatile means we don't know. And things you don't know mean risk. And, you know, Charlie made a good comment yesterday about, well, where are we with risk? I would just say that on our recent budgets we've had here and how it's been bidding, we haven't had any crazy differences, but we're heading into a bidding climate in the next couple months, which will get us a really better idea of where we're at. A couple other things to think about are lead times. Common things that you would go to get off the shelf are now taking 3 weeks to get. Things that were usually taking 12 to 16 weeks to get, like switchgear, HVAC equipment, is taking 40 weeks to get. This is a big issue when you're putting numbers together and schedules. And I think our advice right now is just keep plugging along on the schedule, because historically nothing gets cheaper as time goes on. This is going to be bid in about 18 months from now in early 2023. So we'll just keep an eye on this. We would hope that the current increases that we've seen in 2021 would be alleviated a little bit. And then the last thing I just want to bring up, we're going to be doing an estimate coming up in October, November, the time frame, right? You might be on October. So it's going to be very interesting to do this estimate reconciliation, because usually when we do an estimate reconciliation, we do it the cost as it is that day, and then you anticipate whether you're going to be at how much money you're going to be adding to that to the future. This might be a case where we're looking at maybe seeing that we could alleviate some of these costs in the future. So that's where we're at. That's our update, and risk is there because of the unknown. Thanks.
What'd you say?
Thank you, Peter.
Any questions?
I just have a question. You talk about the septic system here. Is that what's the risk associated with that?
Our civil engineer is working with the Concord Water Department and Department of Health or Board of Health on the approach for the septic system. Early in feasibility, we had a coordination meeting with them to talk about, does it stay in its same place and get improved? Does it need to move? What are today's requirements for a septic system? And there was, right at the time that we were wrapping up the feasibility study, there was new sampling going on and new guidance that came out about PFAS and particles in the water that need to be, that's now getting attention. So basically it's just that there are a lot of nuances to the septic system, and they have recently changed and they are changing. So the team's going to work with the water department on, getting it to be correct for current regulations and everything, but there are different approaches.
Thank you.
Yeah, if I could add, this is Stephen. There's also one of the town's wells is nearby. I think there was concerns about that.
Correct. That is the driver behind what, how extensive this septic system, due to its location, needs to be treated.
Question, if I may, Dawn and Pat. Can you speak, Peter, to any MSBA data that informs us now? Is there anything forthcoming out of MSBA that's useful to us?
I don't know when they're going to update their sheet. Do you know, Kristen or Ian, when are they going to update their most recent data?
There was a board meeting.
I don't know how frequently. Yeah.
So we'll follow that court, because you're right. I mean, I understand kind of the theory behind that question. All of these costs, and you can look at them and put together costs, but what's the market showing? How are people bidding? We're seeing that the climate is that they're sucking up some of this cost for competition. So we'll keep an eye on that court.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep.
There's a board meeting on October 27th. I don't know if they're going to update anything on that, but it's
Great. Thanks, Tom.
We always follow that.
Yeah, we usually we follow those too, and we'll have somebody tracking it.
That one will be great timing for when we do get these estimates back. There was one on August 25th, and that was, some of the recent information, but that October one, it's my understanding there are a lot of bids coming in between now and that October board meeting. So that should be a very helpful session.
And it's worth noting, I have a CM project where they bought out, it's phased. They bought out phase 1 and they held on some of the buyout for the phase 2, recognizing that they believe in a couple months, the market, it will be better. So I don't know, they're hedging their bets, but for what it's worth, that's what I'm seeing on my CM project. Okay. Any other questions about that? Thank you for sharing, Peter and Kristen. Are we on to schedule and cash flow? Is that where we're at, team 6 and 7?
I believe cash flows first, so we can do that, and then I'll pull up the slide again with the meetings.
Okay. Just trying to be cognizant, it's 9:21, so there's a few items left on the agenda.
All right, you guys see the screen here?
You did for a minute. I see
your background now, Ian.
Okay. So this is the cash flow update. The only change here.
Ian, we can't see it. We just see your background. Do you have multiple screens or something? We saw it for a second and then it went to your background. There you go. Yeah.
And you can't read it.
Yeah, he'll zoom in.
We can see it, but I read it.
I think it was in the packet, right? So.
Yeah, it was in the packet, but essentially the only update here is SMMA's progress payment for the month of July. So that's reflected here, paid in the month of August. So expenditures to date is shade over $900,000 of the 1.2 million. So we're marching towards schematic design completion here and making progress payments accordingly. So this is the graph projecting through December, essentially, having spent all of the 1.2 that's been committed to date.
Okay, any
all I have
comments,
for cash flow.
questions on cash flow? Okay, if not, we didn't do schedule yet, right? You went to cash flow first, Kristen?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Dawn and Pat, if I might, just to be clear, it looks like we're going to be entering into contingency monies shortly. And we know those were potentially designated towards certain unknowns. So I'm imagining that at a future meeting, we'll look at some of those unknowns that we no longer have to worry about, such that we have confidence to move into contingency money if necessary. Is that an accurate statement?
Yes.
Yeah, I guess I could speak to that, Don. Yeah, I think Cord, I agree. I think we wanted to make sure, we have a set amount of money for this to get through SD. And we are nearing the end of that. And of course, we wanted to retain some of that, as you said, for contingency, for unknowns. But as we close in on the end of this phase, the unknowns are getting fewer and fewer for getting to the end of SD. And so, yeah, I think I would agree with that we could probably look to, we can have some level of comfort of going to contingency if needed at this stage of design.
Yeah, good. It's important to know what unknowns are no longer worrisome to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments on that? Okay, schedule, Kristen.
Great, just trying to keep pace here so you guys have your time for public comment. So this is consistent with the SD agendas document that was circulated several months ago when we kicked off. But just for everyone here and the public, what we have coming up is a lot of very, very important content in terms of when we get down to SD pricing submissions and report reviews and so on. So our next meeting scheduled is September 16th, where we'll continue to show exterior and interior design refinements. And we will be having a mechanical systems update based on those recommendations that were received and now approved to move forward with in this meeting. On October 7th, that is one day before our pricing set goes to the estimators, to the independent estimators. So we would be presenting in that meeting kind of an overview of what the content of that package is, and also our proposed value management list. When we submit an estimating set, we also submit a value management list with ideas and options on there for when the estimate comes back. We'll have pricing on the value management and on what the basis of design is, so that when the estimates come back, we can make quick decisions with you about any value management items that want to be incorporated. Outside of the construction cost, we also have the project cost, and a key portion of that is in the furniture and technology scope. So in that October 7th meeting, we'll also just review with you what those budget numbers are, and dive into what makes up the number, what the status of it is, and that again is something to prepare you for when you see the total project cost and the construction cost in early November. So then we have this period of 2.5 weeks for estimating and the report review. Part of our estimating set is the SD report, so you'll receive that, and we typically have that review performed concurrently. And so we'll be looking for comments at the end of the estimating period on the SD report. SD report is really just documentation of everything that we've been working through step by step through this process. In early November, we'll have the reconciled estimates in hand and the value management list with pricing. We'll know where we've landed in terms of its relationship to the budget goals. And we will have tiered grouping within the value management sheet on what we would recommend accepting or what the impact is, so that again, you have all the information you need to make any decisions on that. And then on that November 5th meeting, we would be looking to get a vote on what value management items want to be accepted. And so that in the end, on November 12th, we can come back to you with the construction estimate with value management folded in, and then you can approve that final scope and budget for moving forward with town meeting and town vote.
I just wanted to raise an additional meeting, which is not a middle school building committee meeting, but is a select board meeting that's planned for September 20th, 2021. It's following up on our goals for this fiscal year as the select board members. And we've invited the middle school building committee to this meeting, which is to brainstorm possible revenue and other money source offsets to the overall cost of the project. And so it's in the spirit of a brainstorming session. Some of these suggestions could be very far off. Some of them could be near term. But we would like as maximum participation in that as we look to ways to, reduce the overall impact on the public of the cost of this project.
Thank you for bringing that up, Matt. I think that official letter went out to the entire committee yesterday. Is that correct?
That's right. It should have.
Okay.
Hopefully people have
Great.
that in their box.
Yep. And I know I plan to be there. Pat plans to be there. So we encourage everyone to come and listen and participate. So thank you for that. And
I
thank you
actually didn't.
for the select
I
board.
actually
You didn't get it?
didn't get that one, so I would have reported on it. If someone could forward it to me. And is that Matt? Sorry, is select board meetings happening at 4 again, or later? Are they at 6?
No, 6:30 p.m. on
6:30, okay.
September 20th. Yep.
I will forward it to you, Heather. And
Thank
sorry,
you.
in my mind, that wasn't correspondence, but that's a good point. I guess it
Well,
should have
yeah, different, but yeah, might as
been.
well.
A little bit different. It came from
Consider it now
Jeremy.
part of our correspondence report.
Yeah, it came from Jeremy, so I'm going to forward it to you right now. Oh, you're on there, Heather, to your
Am
Gmail.
I just didn't get it somehow.
Yeah, it came from Jeremy, so you may, yeah.
Okay.
But and it's a letter from the select board, and
got it.
It's an attachment. So
Okay.
okay, if you don't get it, let me know. Or I could just forward it to you.
Okay, thanks.
Twice. Yep. Great, thank you, Matt, for pointing that out on the 20th. It's a Monday. Any other comments on the schedule? If not, we will move on.
Oh,
New business.
Can I just point out, sorry, the last
Go
two that are on there are Fridays, not Thursdays. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay,
And
I
I
just want to
think they're
mention
already-
it so everybody has it on their radar.
Yeah, I think I can have placeholders in my calendar. I assume those go to everyone. I just looked because I noticed that as well. I said Fridays, huh?
Yeah, one is dodging the November 11th Veterans Holiday.
Holiday.
And then the other is just, again, giving us sufficient time to fold in the work and present it to you. Because it's 1 week to the next. So that's a very quick turnaround as is.
Great, thank you. Okay, any new business anyone would like to bring forward? Okay, sounds like no. All right, public comment. If anyone has comments, Carlin Reed, I see your hand and your camera and your face. Good morning.
Good morning, good morning. I'm curious about the timing set for a special town meeting and special town election. The clerk's office.
I'm sorry, Carlin, would you just, I know who you are
course,
and I
of
know you
course.
live on Woods End, but would you tell everyone?
Thank you. It's 83 Woods End. Thank you very much, Don. My apologies.
No,
I
that's
know
okay.
that you are looking for the town meeting date and the special election date. I believe the clerk's office needs about 2 months lead time to do their work to prep. So as soon as you can get that date set, talk to Kari so that she can get people lined up, notices up, announcements. So there's a time frame involved, and you haven't been talking about that. So that was it. Thanks.
Thank you, Carlin. Great point. And that work is underway as far as requests for that date to be set. Any other public comment today? Okay, looks like no. I just want to give sufficient time in case anyone is out there and wants to raise their hand, turn their camera on. I don't see anyone. Okay. So with that, I'm going to look for a motion to enter into executive session. And it's for the sake of sensitivity to contract information. So
I'll make a motion to enter executive session for the purposes of contract negotiations, not to return to open session.
thank you, Stephen. We have a motion.
Second.
Couple seconds. I see Heather lit up, so let's give it to Heather. Thank you, Heather. Any discussion? Hearing none, I will take a roll call vote. Stephen Crane,
Yes.
Jared,
Yes.
Matt Johnson, Lori Hunter,
Yes,
Justin Cameron. Is Justin back?
he had to go. It
No
was
problem.
too
I
much.
understand. John Harris,
Yes.
Russ Hughes,
Yes.
Peter Fashalis,
Yes.
Alexa
Yep.
Anderson. Thank you, Alexa. Court Booth,
Yes.
Heather Bout,
Yes.
Frank Cannon,
Yes.
Chris Popoff,
Yes.
Charlie Parker,
Yes.
Pat Nelson,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. So
So
with that,
Aaron's gonna push you all to a breakout room.
perfect. You're ahead of us. I was like, I don't know logistically how this works.
We're pros.